This, my friends, is what was in the December Dollar Bead Box and Dollar Bead Bag. I opened it on my other channel, but I have decided to do some basic wire turning and make a charm bracelet since I have so many cute little beads to work with here. So I decided to do that on my beginner's channel. So this is basically what comes in the box. You do not have to have the box to do this bracelet. You can get any little charms you want, any beads you want to make the charm bracelet I'm going to show you how to make. So in just a minute, I will put together all of the other pieces and parts I need to make this, and we will get started. This is the bracelet we're going to make with the beads from the bead box. Let me take it off so you can see what it looks like. Just going to use all the little charms and all the little beads that were in the box. Plus, I'm going to add a few beads of my own to it, some of these mushroom beads and a few more charms. Now, don't, like I said before, don't let this stop you from making this bracelet if you don't get the bead box. You can use anything you want in this particular type of bracelet. You can use glass pearls and crystals and anything you want, any kind of charms you have on hand, anything you have, you can use. You don't even have to use the 4mm fire polish bead. You can use 4mm pearls or even different sizes. It doesn't matter. You can put this together any way you would like. So don't let it limit you if you do not have the bead box. Just pick out some charms and some beads and go for it. Okay, for this project, I am using a bunch of the little individual packages that came in the bead box. So I'm using the Korean blue opal oval cube, and I'm using the little turquoise squares, the opaque hearts, the little pink opal drops, the check buttons, a couple of the their little pendant charm beads that came, the little angel that came, and also I will be using some things that I have in my personal stash. I found some little charms, hearts, and some little mushroom beads, and then you will need a toggle clasp. You will need some head pins. So my head pins are about 1.5 inches long. You can use longer or shorter as long as they fit through your beads well and you have enough room to turn them and secure them, then that will work just fine. Just make sure the head is big enough to stop your bead. So what I mean by that is that you want the head to hold your bead. If it does not, if your beads slide through, then you'll need maybe a 11/0 or a 15/0 seed bead to put on first and then slide your bead on to hold it on your head pin. Mine are big enough so I don't have to worry about that. I'm also going to be using a strand of 4mm fire polish beads that came in the Dollar Bead Bag, and this one is the Northern Lights 4mm fire polish bead. I have cut a piece of beadalon stringing wire, and that's what this looks like. And this is the 0.61, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, 0.61 millimeters. It's basically a medium size, and I am going to use a size 2 crimp bead, which is also a beadalon crimp bead, silver tone with that, and like I said, toggle clasp. This is a rather large toggle clasp, so I'll have to make sure I make enough, leave enough, or take enough away to have room for my toggle. So then I'm going to cut my wire in 9 inches because I want to make a 7-inch bracelet. So I'm going to cut mine at 9 inches. That gives me 1 inch on either side to clasp with, and a little more actually because I'll have 1 inch at least for my toggle here. So that gives me a few inches to play with my crimp beads. You will need a crimp plier. You will need a round nose plier. You will need a chain nose plier, and you will need some wire cutters for this project. You will also need some jump rings, and mine are about 6mm round. You can use whatever size you're comfortable with using. And let's go ahead and get started. Oh, I may use a crimp bead cover too at the end. Depends on if I decide I need to cover my crimp bead or not. So those are optional, of course. And that's what we need to do this project. So to start this project, grab an eye pin. We are just going to learn how to wrap a loop and trap or cage this little bead in between the loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide an eye pin on. Make sure that the head of your eye pin doesn't slide through your bead. If it does, you may need to put a little like 11/0 or 15/0 or something on first and then slide your bead on. Mine goes through or stays on there just fine, so I don't have to worry about that. Then take your round nose pliers and grab it right on the very top of the bead. Now, where you place this wire on your round nose pliers is how big your loop is going to be. So I'm just a little ways from the tip. I don't want to make mine huge, but I don't want them very small. So I'm just, no, not quite a half an inch, maybe quarter of an inch right down the nose of my pliers. If you want to make sure everyone is exactly the same, then you'll take a Sharpie and mark your pliers, and that way you'll always know where to place it so you have the exact same size loop. Now, once I've done this, held on to it, have it on the top of my bead, the pliers that is, I'm going to bend one side down, and then I'm going to move my pliers into that bend. And then I'm going to bring my excess wire over the top of the plier and roll the plier as I do that. Just so that you have a nice little loop like this. You can straighten it out a little, like so. And then you're going to grab your straight nose pliers, and I like to push my wire up so that I have nice, neat loops. So I just push it up so that it's parallel with the pliers. And then I am going to use my round nose pliers. You can use another pair of chain nose or you can use your flat nose pliers. It doesn't matter. Grab a hold of the end of the excess wire and start to turn it. Regrasp it and turn it again. Regrasp it and turn it again. Just go in half turns so that you can keep control and keep your turns nice and neat. Go all the way around the bead as many times as you can with your excess wire, and then grab your wire cutters and cut it as close as you can. So let's get even closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I've wrapped it around. Now I have my little excess. I'm going to go right in here and cut that. I'm going to put my hand over it because the little wire flies and I don't want it in my eyeball. So then I'm going to take my chain nose and I'm going to straighten this out nice and neat, like so. So I have a nice little wire wrapped loop, like that. Then you're going to set that aside, and you're going to do that with all of your beads. I've done one with this here. Let's go ahead and do it with one of the drops. So I'm going to pick up a drop. I'm going to slide my eye pin through it. I'm going to try to stay in camera this close, but I had it backed off earlier because when I'm wire bending, I tend to get out of frame. So now I'm going to put my pliers right on top of my bead, right where I want my wire to be as far as how big I want my loop to be. Then I'm going to just bend that wire over. I'm going to slide my pliers up into the bend of the wire that I just created, and then I'm going to bring my wire around. And as I do that, I'm going to turn my pliers just slightly so that my loop ends up over the top of the bend so I don't have a funky shape here. And once I get a nice little loop, then I'm going to grab my straight nose pliers. I'm going to put it straight on here so that I can bring this wire up parallel to it and have a nice straight angle here. Then I'm going to grab the end, and since this is a smaller bead, I have a lot more excess. So I can just go around like 3 times It's easier when you have a little bit more to work with. And that's nice and tight. So I will cut it off here, real close to my bead. Put my hand over it. And then I will squeeze the little excess piece that I have sticking out here down, otherwise it'll grab people's clothing and stuff when they wear this bracelet, and that wouldn't be cool. So just kind of squeeze that little excess piece in, straighten up your loop. If you need to, you can grab your little round nose pliers and give it a little bend too. And there you have another little charm ready to go. So I have 3 little charms here. So now that I've shown you how to make the charm units with the beads that have holes in them, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the charms. All we need to do with them is I'm going to grab my chain nose plier and I'm just going to open a jump ring. Let me grab a jump ring that's cut a little better than that one. So let's get real close. So the jump rings are closed right here. When you get them, you just open them from side to side. So make sure you just open it by pushing it forward and a side to side motion. Do not pull them open. Otherwise you will not get them back together correctly and they will not work. After you have opened it, then you're just going to drop one of your charms on it. And then here's where it's nice to have 2 chain nose or a chain nose and a flat nose plier. Sometimes you can just close it with your fingers, but I am going to go ahead and grab my flat nose pliers and I'm going to grab it from this side and I am going to close them together by using little movements from side to side like this to strengthen the wire itself and to close the jump ring tightly. Make sure that there's no spaces in your jump ring, that it's closed very tightly, and that is how you will put your jump rings on your pendants so that we can slide them on our bracelet also. So, I said pendants, I mean charms. So, all of them that have a hole already in the top, you're just going to slide and jump ring on. And for these mushroom beads, I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the charm. I'm just going to open a jump ring from side to side. Let's get close so you can see. From side to side. And then I'm going to slide that jump ring on my mushroom bead. The mushroom bead has a little pinch on the top with a hole through it. So you just slide it through there. And then I'm just going to close it. Like so. These are check mushroom beads. I think these ones that I'm using are a 6mm. They come in all different sizes and you can buy them from all the different bead sites. So if you want to use some, if you think they're neat, then that's what they are, little check mushroom beads. And that's all you have to do for the charm, is to open and close your jump ring. Now jump rings, a lot of them, if you get them, they can be cut quite badly and they're difficult to close. That was the case with this one here. Do you want to make sure that they're cut flush? If not, you can cut the ends of them flush. Just take the tiniest bit off or you'll distort the shape of your jump ring. But you can cut them so that they will close better. When you open it, I'm just going to show you again. Open straight up and down, like so, side to side. When you close them, grab another plier, hold on to it, and just bring them back and forth. Just jiggle them back and forth until it closes very nicely and flush, like so. The jiggling motion also strengthens the wire a little bit and hardens it so that it'll stay in place. So just jiggle it lightly, make sure they touch flush, and that's how you close a jump ring. Okay, so once you've made a nice little pile of charms for your bracelet, then you're going to want to start making your bracelet. Now the number of charms you make is totally up to you. If you want your bracelet to be really full, you'll make a whole bunch of them. If you want your bracelet to be a little bit more sparse, lighter looking, then you'll make less of them. what I'm going to do is I've made several of them. I'm going to start making my bracelet, and I'll start stringing on my beads and my charms in between and see how I like the look of it. If I need more, I'll make more. If I need less, then I'll just set them aside. But there isn't any specific number that you have to have made. This is totally up to your own tastes. Take your piece of beadalon wire that you cut at 9 inches or longer if you have a bigger wrist, smaller if you have a smaller wrist, and slide on a size 2 crimp bead. Let's get some of this stuff out of the frame so you can see what I'm doing. Get it closer. So I've slid on my crimp bead, then I'm going to slide on my toggle, and I'm going to use the round end because this is going to help me measure my length as I make my bracelet. This bracelet is going to be full, so we're going to need a little bit of extra length anyway. So if you wear a 7-inch, you may want to make it 7.5 to 8, or if you have a size 6 bracelet, you want to leave it maybe a 1/2 inch longer. 6 inches, I mean, not size 6. Now bring your wire around and push it through, go through the hole, push it through your crimp bead, and then grab a hold of the little tail and pull it just enough to where it's not going to slide through, and then take your main wire and pull it so you don't lose any more length than you have to on the tail side. Leave a little bit of a loop, a nice amount, so it dangles on there good. Depending upon what size of clasp you have, you do want to retain some movement. So that depends on how big your loop is going to be. I'm going to leave mine pretty good size. Then you're going to make sure that your wires are coming out parallel and not crossed inside your crimp bead, which can be quite the trick. The way I do it is I spread them apart so that they are somewhat parallel. Then I lay my clasp on the desk because otherwise it'll turn your crimp to where you don't want it. Then in your crimp pliers, go into the second divot on them, the one furthest towards the handle, and squeeze your crimp bead. Then you can see that I have encased both wires separately into 2 little tubes. Then I'm going to turn it to the side where the crease is towards me, and I'm going to go into the first divot on the crimp pliers, and I'm going to squeeze those 2 tubes together. And now you can see my bead is nicely crimped. Now if I want to, I can put it towards the front of the pliers and squeeze it one more time just to make sure it's secure, like so. There's a little flat part right here that you can do a little extra squeeze with. And now I have a nicely crimped bead here. Now I'm going to cut this end down a little bit because I'm not sure that it's going to fit through my fire polish bead, so make sure it's tightly crimped. Normally you'll want to slide a bead through, which we could do. I could grab just to make it nice and secure. What I'll do is I'll grab a wider hold bead. This is like a 6/0 seed bead. It's actually a metallic 4mm round, but or a metal 4mm round, but it's shaped like a 6/0, so you could use a 6/0 first if you would like to. Slide it down and put your tail inside it, just to have an extra amount of security here. Let me back off some. Then we're going to cut the excess here on the other side of the bead, and then we will begin stringing our fire polish beads on, and we will put charms in between. So I'm going to cut my strand open here. I'm going to pick up my end of my wire is all messed up. Let me trim that. Okay, I'm going to pick up a 4mm fire polish bead, and then I'm going to pick up a charm. Now you can put 1 or 2 or however many you want between your beads. I think I'm going to do 2. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my charms, and then I'm going to pick up a fire polish bead. Then I'm going to push this down like so. Then I'm going to pick up another fire polish bead. I think I'll just spread them out a little bit. So I'm going to go between two. Now I'm just going to put one charm. And then I'm going to pick up one fire polish bead. And this is totally up to you, the order you want to do it in, the way you want to do it. If you want to put 5 or 6 of them in between each bead, it doesn't matter. It's totally up to you. This will work out beautiful no matter what you do. Now I'm going to pick up a mushroom bead and slide it through the jump ring and put that down. And then I'm going to pick up 2 more fire polish beads, and I am going to pick up one of these guys. Let's put it down, then another charm, little metal charm, and then I'm going to pick up a fire polish bead, and I'm just going to continue doing this. Maybe I'll put my little angel on. Now the angel has a jump ring on it, so I'm going to slide it through the jump ring. If it hangs down too low, I can always just take the jump ring off and go through this hole too, but actually that's too close to another metal bead. I don't want that yet, so I think I'll do a turquoise bead, and then I'll do some more fire polish beads. And see, you can see how it's starting to turn into a little charm bracelet. Like I said, you can do as many beads or as little, do whatever you want. So I'm going to slide another mushroom bead on, and I think I'll put 2 beads in that spot. So I got a mushroom bead. Maybe I'll put something small, maybe a heart. And then I'm going to pick up fire polish bead. Now I'm going to put on a button, and then I'm going to pick up a fire polish bead, and I'm going to put on 2 charms and put a pink drop. And so you'll just continue doing that all the way down the bracelet. Just randomly putting them on. Put on a fire polish, put on 2 fire polish, put on 3 charms, put on 1 charm. It doesn't matter. Just randomly string your fire polish and then whatever, however many charms you want. If you want it to be really full, then string a whole bunch of them in between the beads, up to 3 or 4 of them. They are going to take up room on your strand, so you're going to have to think about that. If you get too many charms in between, then it's going to just look like loops of metal with charms on it. So you don't want to go too crazy, but 1, 2, or 3, you could probably do that. So go ahead and string all the way down, and then we'll come back and put the clasp on. Okay, so I've gone ahead and strung all of my beads and all of my charms on. And my bracelet is measuring. You want to measure from the middle part of your toggle. So my bracelet is measuring, let's see, not quite 7 inches, and I want it to be just a little over 7 inches. So I'm just, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch away from 7 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put on the other end of my toggle clasp, which of course there's some space there, so that'll take up the rest of my 7 inches and then give me a little bit extra. And that will be the length that I will want for my bracelet. And this is the way that I recommend you measure it, because every toggle clasp is different, everybody's wrist is different, and it's just better if you make them custom, each one kind of custom length. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how many beads to put on, in other words. I would like you to measure and figure out your own length. That will be the best way that it will have a chance to fit you. So anyway, now that you have it to where you want your length, then you're going to pick up another one of your crimp beads. Let's see. And your other end of your toggle, and you're going to slide your crimp bead on. Of course, I want to end mine in a silver, since I started it in a silver one to slide down. So I am going to replace this last one here with my silver bead so that it's the same on either end. And then I'm going to pick up my crimp bead, slide it on there, pick up my toggle, slide it on there, and then I'm going to go through the crimp bead and my silver bead here with my tail of my beading wire, like so. And I'm going to pull it through until I have the length I want. I'm going to give myself a tiny bit of slack in the line for my beads to move around. I don't want it really, really tight. They won't have any movement. And then I want to try to get my wire parallel here so it's not crossed. And then I'm going to make that just a little smaller. My loop's a little big. There. And then make it parallel. And I'm going to pick up my crimp pliers and put my crimp in the second divot, or the one towards the handles, and then turn it sideways and put it in the first divot, the one towards the front of the plier, and squeeze. And then I have a nice crimp here. You can see how it's crimped tight. I'm just going to squeeze it with the flat part of the crimp pliers just to make sure it's nice and tight. I'm going to cut this wire real close to that silver bead there, and I have a charm bracelet. And I will put this on so you can see what it looks like. Let's back off. That's kind of cute. And let's see what it looks like on the wrist. Let me back off again. My hands are really beat up. I apologize. I've been doing a lot of work around the house and stuff, and I kind of beat them up. So I apologize for the mess of my hands, but it is what it is, I guess. And this is what the little bracelet looks like on. Here's the clasping. And all the little charms. I think it's pretty cute. So hopefully you'll make one. And like I said, you do not have to have the bead box to do this. You can do this with pearls. You can do it with crystals. You can do it with anything you've got in your bead stash. Just get some head pins and wrap them up and slide them between some. You don't even have to use fire polish beads. You could use metal beads. You could use any kind of bead you have, little 4mm pearls. You could even make them bigger beads. They don't have to be 4mm. This is a very versatile type of design. You can do anything with it that you want. So just go ahead and play with it and have some fun. Bye-bye.